What's up guys, Jake here with J Scott Herps, not to be confused with herpes. Herpes is nasty. In this video I'm going to be doing a leopard gecko care guide. Before I start, I like to do a little disclaimer saying, I don't really do a lot of care videos, and the reason for that is I feel as though you should probably be an expert to make a care video, and I think I'm pretty knowledgeable on leopard geckos because I've been keeping them for a long time. But generally you should probably have raised your animal from a baby to an adult before you can say you know the ins and outs of the care. I think that makes sense, and that's what I've always thought. So I'm saying, I can't make a Brazilian rainbow boa care video. I haven't raised this thing from a baby to an adult. I'm not an expert. Why should I make one? And that's kind of what I've always thought. But as of recently, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, there are a lot of really, really bad care videos on YouTube. Like really bad. Like people just go out to a pet store, buy an animal, and go home, make a care video, and all their numbers for humidity and temperature pretty much they just make them up on the spot. They're good at just BSing, I guess, but a lot of bad care videos. And if I can do my part and help outweigh the bad ones to the good ones, or I think I said that backwards, but make sure there's more good care videos than bad ones, then I'm doing my job. So I am going to start doing some care videos on my animals. Hopefully you guys are on board with that. Hopefully you stick around to see that. And anyways, let's get on with the video. It wouldn't be a Jake Scott Herps video without a 1.5-minute long disclaimer. But congratulations on choosing a leopard gecko. They make really good pets. Maintain a pretty small adult size, up to 10 inches. For a male is pretty much the biggest they'll get unless you get a giant or a super giant bloodline, but chances are you probably won't if this is your first reptile. And they're really good with kids. They're really easy to handle. They're also a good apartment or maybe college dorm animal because they are pretty small. You don't need a massive enclosure. 10 to 20 gallon aquarium is pretty much standard for a leopard gecko, or even a pair of leopard geckos. 20 gallon would probably be the best. And people ask me all the time, I have this animal, what size enclosure do I need for it? And it really just depends what you think is reasonable. I mean, really, there's not rocket science to it. You pretty much just look at your animal and then look at your cage and decide, all right, does this look all right? Does this look like my animal has enough room to move around? And in this case I would say yes. I think my leopard gecko has plenty of room. With something like my tegu, she's getting really big really fast, and I think this 20 gallons not going to last too much longer. She's already looking like she's getting a little big for it, so she's probably going to need a new enclosure soon, whereas my gecko looks very comfortable in his enclosure. He's got tons of space, and yeah. So really, when you're deciding what cage size you need, that's pretty much all you have to do. That's my rule of thumb anyway. As far as this tank setup goes, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need 1 or 2 good hides. I like these magnetic hides because I can remove this and look at my gecko without disturbing him too much and yanking off the hide. I also have this little foam, like underground type hide, which I like. He doesn't really use it a lot, but it just kind of adds character to the tank. And over here I have this other hide which I stuff with moss whenever he's shedding to help him shed, especially on his toes. That seems to be a problem area. You don't really need this unless they are shedding. I wouldn't, you don't need to have it at all times. I don't really think. As long as you keep a water dish, then you're fine. I've had my leopard gecko for a really long time without one, just because the books I read back then were not really the best written books, and I didn't, but now I do, and I just keep that when he is shedding. You can keep it at all times if you want. All you really need is a hide, moss or like Eco Earth or something like that. That's generally good. And as far as your temperatures go, you want a gradient. I'm sure you're all familiar with what that means. Basically just hot side, cool side, and in between, so they can choose what they want. My hot side, generally acceptable is 86 to 90 is pretty much good. Upper 80s is fine for leopard geckos, and then the cool side is basically room temperature unless you live in a really cold area. Then you might want to have a small incandescent maybe in the middle to help heat it up, because that's probably going to be a little too cold for them. Chances are they probably won't go over there. My room stays in the mid 70s anyway, or the low 70s, so that's usually acceptable. And I do want to point something out. I didn't clean this cage completely before doing this video like I always do, because I wanted to point something out to you guys. I don't know if you guys with your leopard geckos have had this same experience, but all of my leopard geckos, all 3 of them, seem to be like cats. Like they all poop in the same spot every time, no matter what, which is kind of nice for cleaning, because I can just scoop out the poop replace a little bit of sand, and then I'm good. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's a leopard gecko trait or if that's just the way mine turned out. Either way, it's pretty cool. And as far as temperature goes, the best way to get that temperature is an under tank heat mat, because they are nocturnal. A lot of excessive light is probably not too good for them. I am using a light for this video, so I do apologize for that, but I'm just doing it for better viewing. And you don't really need a UVB light. I would go with the notion that you don't need it, just based on the fact that people like Ron Tremper and big leopard gecko breeders have been not using UVB forever. And that's my clock, if you can hear that. That's actually really annoying, because it always goes off when I do videos, but I'm not going to start over because I'm 5 minutes into this. Fantastic. But anyway, like I was saying, big breeders don't use UVB, and they've been doing it for a long time, and if you needed UVB, I would assume there'd be a lot of negative side effects by now. And now we're going to talk about substrate, and people talk about sand like it is the black plague. Like, you put your leopard gecko on sand, you might as well just kill it yourself, because it's going to die. It's going to die. It has no chance for survival because it's on sand. And I would tend to disagree with that, although a lot of people on YouTube would tend to go with that. I feel like the people that really hate on sand all the time are people who don't really have that much experience, in my opinion. I've had this leopard gecko on sand, this very leopard gecko that you see on sand, for 10 years. That's more years than a lot of these kids who are telling me what I'm doing wrong are old. So I feel as though if the sand was that bad, then chances are something would have happened by now. I feel like impaction is a risk if your husbandry and a lot of your other everything else is wrong. Like, if you have a lot of problems with your tank, impaction might occur. But if you do everything right, I feel as though you're probably going to be okay. But I would generally stick away from sand. If you're going to be doing YouTube videos, I'm saving you guys a headache right now, because people will hound you for using sand. They will never leave you alone. Like,
Jake, you son of a bitch, you're using sand, your leopard gecko's gonna die, you might as well just give me your whole reptile collection, because all your animals are just gonna die because you have sand in your leopard gecko's tank.
And it's crazy. So if you're getting a leopard gecko, I would probably recommend newspaper or paper towels, reptile carpet maybe, flat like stones, like slate rocks, or anything like that, anything that isn't a loose substrate, because you will get destroyed for using it. I use it because I've done it this way forever, and I'm not going to change the way I do things now because I've had success doing it. So that's my little rant on sand. Went a little long, but anyway, as far as food goes, you're gonna want insects. Leopard geckos are insectivores. They don't eat any whole prey items. I have seen people feed them pinkies and even adult mice. I would stick away from that. If you're really that bloodthirsty and you want to see something get mauled, or if you want to see a mouse die, then get a snake or something. Probably a better idea. The main two staples that people use are crickets and mealworms. Most people use mealworms just because it's easier and they don't smell as bad. I use both for variety's sake. And I also feed dubia roaches. Dubia roaches are awesome. Much better than either of those two. They're just more expensive and they're harder to get a lot of. And if you want to give your leopard gecko treats, waxworms, butterworms, silkworms, superworms, all those are fine as well. Probably not the best for staples though, because they are higher in fat. And you do want to gut load all your feeders before you feed them. That's just kind of general practice to help pass on more vitamins to your leopard gecko that it wouldn't normally get just from eating the insects by itself. And you also want to do some sort of vitamin calcium dusting. Calcium is pretty important just because leopard geckos eat insects, and insects don't have bones, so they're not going to get any calcium. And you don't really need to use vitamins, but I do just because it's healthier and it's better. These two are just normal pet store brand things. You can get the bigger ones in bulk. I don't really know where to get them, so I just use these ones and they work fine for me. But you can use something else if you want. As long as you're using calcium, that's a good thing. And you need fresh water available. You don't need to have this really decorative water dish. You can use any sort of water dish at all. It really doesn't matter. And that goes for the whole tank. You really don't need to buy all this really decorative, expensive pet store type things. You can use you can use cups, you can use whatever you want to get by. It really doesn't matter. Your gecko's not going to hate you for it. Your gecko is going to be perfectly content with whatever you choose. And so yeah, that's pretty much my leopard gecko care video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video and want me to make more. If you want me to make more care videos, you know, you can leave a comment on the animal you would like to see next. I'm not going to talk about breeding in this video because I'm not a breeder. I know how to do it, but I don't really do it, so I'm not going to tell you guys how to do it. You know, if you really want to breed, get a good book written by you know, a knowledgeable breeder like Ron Tremper, somebody like that, and you'll be good to go. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys later. Peace.